Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh my God, it was fantastic. Throw up that spoiler warning because, folks, we are going to talk Avengers. We are just going to go nonstop. Oh my God, what an amazing, after 12 years, 20 movies, well, 21 if you count Howard the Duck, 23 if you count Blade movies, just amazing. And I tell you, I cannot believe Thanos told Ray, I am your
Joe!
What?
I haven't seen it yet.
What?
I can't see it yet.
Wait, are you saying you went to the theater and couldn't see it because it was sold out, or you couldn't see it because your eyes are still all left up?
My eyes are still all messed up, so I'm not going to pay $15 for
a $5 movie night, like my buddy did last night.
Yes.
So you mean after all this planning and colluding and waiting, we're not going to talk about Avengers today?
Today, no. You talk about topics.
Fine. Tell us about your second eye surgery. Regale us with that, Mr. Old Daredevil wannabe. Guess I know what your Halloween costume is going to be, right?
Well, hopefully I'll be able to see by then.
No, I'd be the classic Daredevil, not that you don't look good in red.
Oh, no, I'll do the new black costume.
Ooh, nah, too gothy.
Are you kidding? I look good in black leather. My second surgery was last week, Joe.
I know. Unfortunately, I was way booked with doctor appointments. Otherwise, I'd come over and, constantly chew you about, yeah, I'm going to take an Uber to it and an Uber back and blah, blah, blah. No, I take it you didn't do the Uber mistake this time.
No, because it was in Waconia, which is further away.
Oh, okay.
So on this one, first off, they actually did not... I wasn't left alone in a room for an hour with nothing. This one, they had a TV, but I could still... I could keep my stuff with me, so I actually was reading until it was time to take me in. This one, they had to give me extra anesthesia. I guess I have some memories of seeing things, but what the nurse said is they had to give me extra anesthesia because I tried to help. I don't know what I did to try to help, and I wish they would tell me, but nope, I guess I tried to help.
I must have gone over good. Stand back, Doc. I'll deliver this baby.
Well, it's like, give him more gas. And, last time I could still wear my glasses. Nope, not now. I put my glasses on after this one, and it's like, oh, man, I could start fires with these. I don't have glasses currently. There is a place where everything is really clear, the sweet spot. So I am able to read and do some things, but I have to wait until my eyes get completely healed before they can give me new glasses. So I'm off work for a little while.
And how little is little?
Okay, until Memorial Day.
Jeez, rough life. Kind of nice, isn't it?
And I paid for the short-term disability, so I'm getting a paycheck. I'm getting a paycheck to stay home and watch wrestling and read comics.
Work on 300 more podcasts. And how can I suppose reading's a little better now that the second eye's done.
Oh, yeah. And the TV's blurry, so there are certain things that I don't watch and certain things I do. So, like, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but people have been saying that the last episode was dark. And I don't mean depressing and everything. I mean it was dark as in the screen was dark. And there are some TV shows like that now where I only can watch them at night when I have most of the lights in the house off. Those I don't watch at all. So I've been watching black and white movies and pro wrestling because those are a lot of contrast, so I can tell what's going on. And just kind of enjoying the time off. So I've been reading tons of comics.
Oh, that's good.
And what have you done?
Working, and I haven't read anything. Well, I read a few things. I'll talk about it in Geeking, of course. And like I said, I will give a one-word Avenger review. Wow. Enough said.
People online have been really good about not posting spoilers among the people I know.
Yeah, I actually checked out on Thursday and did not really look at any posts. I looked at posts like if you commented or people reacted to whatever, but I didn't just randomly scroll because there is always some asshole that's going to just just blurt out what happened in his headline, and it's like, it's one thing when you say spoilers and then you scroll down, because I have the option of not doing that. I'm just reading the Avengers Endgame of Entertainment Weekly that came out a week or so before. And of course, at that time, Entertainment Weekly sucks because they're always like, well, I'll a light spoiler for let's use Avengers Ultron, Age of Ultron, or whatever it was called, the second Avenger movie. The Ultron Avenger lifts the entire country up, and it's up to the Avengers to get it down without destroying it. It's like, I didn't want to know that. Yeah, it's a minor spoiler, but it's kind of the major thing in the third act.
Yeah.
And they do that constantly. So I took the issue that they got, and I just kind of put it aside. And now I'm reading it, and I'm like, it was pretty much spoiler free. They were very, very tight with not giving anything. I think even death threats to Mark, what was his name? Mark Ruffalo? Ruffy, good old Ruffy, yeah. Of the only one I actually watched, the Jason show, our local guy, Jason Matheson, who's given reviews in the past that were just phenomenal and non-spoiler. And he does it in such a way that gets me enthusiastic. I've actually been watching how he does it because that's how I want to do, like when we review comics. I don't really want to tell you about the comic, but I want to let you know I'm excited about it. So I sent him a quick note, and I said, "No, I'm trusting you. I'm going to watch your review tomorrow that you said about, because nobody else I'm going to watch." And he delivered. He said to him, and he got to do the press show on Tuesday. And he said him and his staff were going round and round talking about what they should mention, what they shouldn't. And he finally just said, "We're not going to mention anything." He did mention the one thing: if you are stupid enough to drink a gigantic diet cola or non-cola or other tasty beverage, because now they actually have a full bar at the theater I go to, he did give an idea of when would be the best slow scene to go hit the restroom if you had to. And if you want, I can tell you that, or I could just let you figure it out on your own. I woke up at 8 a.m. like I normally do, did my eBay and had my normal muffin and diet soda, did not drink anything. And when I got there, I did have one beef with the theater because oh my God, I got there like 20 minutes before showtime, and even that was tight. And I figured, okay, I'll grab my milk duds, I'll grab some water, that way I have something to sip on in case I get dry mouth. They had like 2 people, and the line was huge because everybody was getting in. We're in the Ultra screen.
Oh yeah.
And there was nobody else there. It's like they totally underplanned. Yeah, it's going to be Monday after the biggest mega movie event in 20 years, and we're not going to do it. I mean, the manager was running around trying to find anybody to open a third line. So, and then of course you get up and you get people who they got their kids there. And of course the kids want to go run around. It's like, what do you want? I want popcorn. You said you didn't want popcorn. Well, okay, I'll have candy. No, you can't have candy. Do you want popcorn? I'm like, argh! Countdown, tick, tick, tick. Joe, get yourself back. You don't want me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And so finally, the way they have these kiosks set up is like there's a couple, displays that go out about 10 feet that have a cooler and candy in it. So as you're walking in, you actually pick up your candy.
Yeah.
And, the bad part of me is thinking, maybe I should, I could walk away with this shit. Nobody'd even notice. But I'm not that way. And so I'm like 2 feet in, and all of a sudden they open a line next to us, and everybody behind us runs to that line. And even the lady in front of me who'd been waiting for this family to stop dicking around is kind of like, great. The people who've been in line the longest now are being served the last. And I was like, oh, we don't do that at TSA, I'm telling you. Anyways, I did get in. I got right when I don't know if the theater you goes to have the pre-show commercials. Yes. I got there, and they're whatever. I mean, I don't care. It's that or looking at a blank screen. But I got there right as it ended. The preview started, and I'm like, oh, geez, do I really got to go to the bathroom? Well, it's not going to happen. And I did sit through the whole movie. There were a couple of slow scenes in the second act where I started realizing I need to go to the bathroom. But by the time that third act went, I totally forgot I needed to go to the bathroom. And I took ginger sips. I did buy, as I was right up front, I started to get really hungry, and I thought, no, this ain't happening. So I grabbed a Kit Kat bar and snarfled that down. So for the 3 hours, 2 minutes, I did stay to the end. I don't think it's a spoiler to say there is no after scene
they've
credit.
already announced that there's a sound at the end, but there is no after scene.
Yeah. And so I stayed for that. And even online, you'll see they have the Avenger credits must have set a record for I'm not even going to say it. It's just long credits, but so I enjoyed it. I had fun. I'm glad I missed everything. I had friends at work that had seen it beforehand. They were very tight-lipped. I appreciate that. Consequently, I don't really care if anybody gives me Game of Thrones spoilers because I have yet to see a single episode. Not because I'm one of those smug guys who I never saw an episode. No, I don't have HBO Plus or whatever it is to go. I don't know. Eventually, I do want to see it. It's the type of thing I know I'm going to be thrilled with. I don't know how I'm going to see it unless it shows up on Hulu or Netflix, or I can buy the box CD set. Yeah, I'm a Luddite.
Yeah, you'll have to buy the box set because HBO holds that stuff super tight.
Yeah.
Sopranos still you can only watch on HBO. Oz.
Well, it should. I loved Oz when I had HBO. And and rightly so. I mean, they spent a lot of money, and in this day, especially with Disney streaming coming up, and I'm already nosebleeding to get it. I mean, Disney is basically just sat back, watch everybody else figure it out. Now they're going to they'll be like the 2-ton gorilla in the room, and I'm already ready to give them my money. I mean, the one thing I think may happen, we may see other services drop their price to try to match Disney, which could be a good thing. But anyways, that's. I had a good time seeing the Avengers, and I had to decompress afterwards. I don't normally go to a fast food restaurant, but I just went to McDonald's and had their chicken strips, which if you like chicken strips are pretty good. And I just sat and kind of decompressed and kind of read some of the feeds. And by the time I got home, I went to all those spoiler sites and these are the 15 things about Endgame we don't think make sense. And I'm like, whatever. Now you can tell me. Clickbait, but it was fun. So I spent a couple hours going through that. Easter eggs, Google Endgame Easter eggs, and oddly enough, I knew most of them. So, for geeks like you and me and hopefully our listeners, I hope you've seen it, and I hope, Cory, when your eyesight's better, you see it because we're gonna get a podcast out of this baby.
Oh yeah,
I haven't been this excited to podcast since we did that Fantastic Four one.
Yeah, that's my question. Is it better than the greatest superhero movie of all time, The Fantastic Four?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
The only thing could have made it better is if they would have had those actors come in and make a cameo. I mean, they did it for Stan Lee, Jim Starlin, some other guys. I mean.
Now, I will let you know why there weren't people working at the theater. Having worked at a movie theater within the last decade, most of the employees are high school students. So during the day, they don't count on having many people there. That's why they don't hire a lot of people who aren't high school students. And I also would imagine that over the weekend it was all hands on deck.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to give a certain amount of time between shifts. So I imagine a lot of their non-high school people had to work late on Sunday, and they could not come in for a certain number of hours afterward.
Oh, yeah. Or, I'm pretty sure school. Oh, yeah, we're going to let them out of school to go work at a movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's some what are they? What's like that? They have like a work job thing that they do for. Yeah, maybe that. I remember that back when Chris and I looked at buying a theater in Ely. That the guy said when summer comes and you decide if you're going to run matinees, because they would run nightly shows, sometimes two depending on the movie. On Friday, definitely on Saturday, a matinee, an afternoon, and then two other shows. And Friday, sometimes like a 7 and a 9. And then during the rest of the week, they would just do a 7 or 9.
Yeah.
But he did say before summer comes, make sure to lock in your high schoolers that you want, because they will find jobs real fast, and then you won't have anybody. And then plus if you do see you got a person you like, you can keep them around into the fall season. And that's usually what he did. And as I believe I said, Chris and I elected not to buy the theater, so all is well.
And the other thing about small theaters like that, because I went to one, I worked at one when I was in college, and they would have the two shows every night, but then on the weekends they'd have matinees. They'll have a long gap between, because they would have a show at 1 and then a show at 3, and then they wouldn't have another show until 7.
Yeah, that's kind of what he did. And the thing that really stopped Chris and I from buying it were two things. First of all, I had thought that maybe since they were a smaller theater, they didn't have to go under the thing that the first opening weekend, they give 90% of their profits to the studio. And that wasn't true.
Correct.
I mean, these are just single screen, small town flicks. He did explain how and this is back before digital, so they would actually have a physical print of the film. And what they did is he would get one, and then there was a core group of 4, and they would swap around to each theater. And the studios didn't care because they got 90% regardless. So you would get the film, lop on your ads, and then you cut it, send it, and that's how they cut down on shipping costs to ship these things. Now, the other reason we didn't buy it is because of the oncoming onset of digital theaters. And, he wanted like $320,000 for the theater, and we knew we would have to pay upwards of $180,000 to get a digital projector. Granted, no shipping costs because you just aim to the satellite and zip, you have it. But there was just no way that we had that type of money. We're looking at financing some of it, but we just knew that was a death knell. And sure enough, the theater to this day isn't running movies. It's running. It's there as a gathering place if you need a meeting or whatever. Hell, I'd even reach out to the high schools and have them do plays if I still owned it. But the digital era kind of was a death knell to theaters, especially smaller ones.
That's what happened here in Chaska. We had a 5-screen theater, and then when it was announced that they'd no longer be sending out film, the theater announced that when their shutdown date would be, and they had an article in the paper about it. They would need 5 digital projectors at $70,000 each. And there was no way that he could turn a profit for at least 3 years after doing that. So he actually sold it to a church. So there's now a church in the Chaska Theater. Still says Chaska Theater on it.
That's interesting. I wonder, next time I'm out and about, when we head up north, I'll have to see. I probably just Google, because I still remember the network of theaters that he would swap his films with. I'll have to see how many of these theaters are actually around. Plus the fact that you're going up against now streaming, which killed everything but one Blockbuster. You just want something you can download it. Heck, New Year's when we had our friends over, we were showing them What's Up Doc which they had never seen. It's always fun to have somebody watch something they'd never seen. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a great example. If somebody's never seen Monty Python, or even if they haven't, they've never seen that, just you have as much fun watching them react to it and laugh as we did. And the payoff for them was just, they loved it. But could not find the disc. I just paid $2.99 Amazon Prime,
Yeah.
And I think I still have the rights to watch it whenever I want. I haven't gone back, or if maybe it was a month. I don't know, because there's always so much more to watch.
Yes, that's the thing. My DVR's now at 60% full.
I'm at. I look at it the other way. I think I'm at like 23% left.
Oh,
so
okay.
About 80 or so. And I actually have gone back, and there's been a couple things that have been sitting there for a year that I just deleted. I figure I'm never going to get to it. If it's been sitting there a year, a lot of the things I save are like the Pledge Break concerts, if it's a group I like, historical shows, nature shows. I'm sure I could find it again if I look for it, but I'm kind of like, if I haven't watched it in a year, I probably ain't going to watch it ever. Especially not after I just spent 6 weeks on my butt recovering from my hip.
Well, Joe, I don't have a whole lot of a topic, but I do know that coming up this weekend is Free Comic Book Day.
I know. Now, just to lay the ground rules for everybody, remember, comics are not free to the retailer. And there was actually an article, and I don't know, excuse me while I fire it up, where somebody was questioning, I think it was Bleeding Cool, they were questioning whether or not Free Comic Book Day has lost its potential, whether it's worthwhile that it is doing like it's supposed to be doing. And it's interesting because our plans for Free Comic Book Day, and we'll talk about it because if we're lucky, we'll get an episode out of it. The shops we're visiting, with the exception of Granite City, aren't necessarily participating in Free Comic Book Day. They probably will have some type of sales going on, but they won't have the typical free comics that, you walk in, you pick up. I know in the past people have always, they only let me get 4 comics at their shop, or I could only get this, or in the case if you're at the source, if you're not there before 1 p.m., you might not get one of their bags. I like what Tim at Granite City is doing, and if he will sell you a set close to cost because he's got to cover his shipping as well, which I think I would offer to my, if I still had a retail store, I would offer it, because there are guys like me that want it all, whether I read it all or not. Although, we'll get a couple of podcasts out of it, but I'd like to, for when you're collecting it, you want it all. And I think that's actually a cool thing to do for someone who wants it all. Or, and I try to mention it to as many people as possible. Hey, it's Free Comic Book Day. But there are so many things going on the May 4th weekend that Free Comic Book Day has kind of fallen by the wayside. It's become, again, just a thing within comic books to have your regular customers come in and pick up some free comics.
Well, and more of the companies use it as a kind of, I don't want to call it a preview, but sort of a, here, read this to get excited about what we're doing over the summer. Marvel and DC have done that for a long time, but other companies are doing it as well. It's not here's a comic to get you, here's a comic. It's more, here's what we're doing coming up. So here's kind of a prelude to our new stuff, which, if you're a comic publisher, is probably the best way to do it. But what I wanted to talk about is,
I will mention before we get too far into it, it's bleedingcool.com. It's posted by Rich Anderson on the comments from Rod Lamberti of Rodman Comics. And if you just do Free Comic Book Day when you're in Bleeding Cool News, you'll find the article. And, he's talking about, how things aren't really, it's kind of a more of an incestuous thing. I mean, one of the big things he talked about, Wizards of the Coast used to have a magic day where you could come out and you could get free magic cards, and they just stopped doing it, and it didn't affect sales. Matter of fact, Wizards of the Coast has a major product coming out on Free Comic Book Day, so they're dealing with that. And there are so many things that are going on, and he just says, doing the same thing over and over again, it's not really helping drive comic sales, which Cory can tell us yes or no if that's true or not. Although I gotta say, man, when we were trying to plan which stores we wanted to hit, there were a few we decided because of our time limits we weren't going to hit because they're going to be crowded. They make a big event of it. The Source, Hot Comics in New Hope has something called FrankieCon, which is kind of like a miniature comic convention to go along with the big sale. I mean, the one year we went to the New Hope store, we were in line for an hour to get our stuff. And that was just because they were doing a kick-ass sale as well. Even when I had Crazy Comics, the one Free Comic Book Day I dealt in, I did as much on that day as I did in a week, maybe 2 weeks of normal comics. So it's still a major event for comic stores. It's just not bringing in people. It's just not affecting comic sales. So that said,
Joe, if you had the old Hot Comics St. Paul, how would you go about Free Comic Book Day this year?
Again, I'm dealing off of knowledge from the mid-2000s, but I would be all in. It would be an event. I don't know. I suppose I have a few creators I would ask to come in. I would do big sales. I would probably rummage through. Now, Cory remembers my back room with boxes and boxes of comics that he had already put out in the back issues. I mean, almost every run that I got in from people selling were selling me, the runs of the Death of Superman, the Return of Superman, you know what I was going to say. The other ones, I would have had you, Cory, go, hey, find me those comics. If we've got 25 of them, let's take 20 of them, and that'll be part of the Free Comic Book Day. That was something I did in Crazy Comics. I actually had some free comic books available that I had picked up and acquired that no other store had, in addition to everything else. I would probably just make it, hey, come on in, everything's for sale. Or, just you come in and grab. I know I had guys come visit me at Crazy Comics that only came because they knew they could get one of everything and they didn't feel obliged to buy anything. I may have coupons ready to, hey, come on back for an event. I would have a drawing of some sorts, put it away, probably pick some big back issue or maybe some big collectible, try to capture as many names as I could. Back then it was addresses, emails were just coming in vogue. Now it would be, maybe I definitely would have had a better Facebook presence. I'd have been blurbing it forever. I don't know if I'd have done much local advertising, because really, when I used to do sales with Hot Comics St. Paul, I could always run a couple ads in the newspaper, and that would bring a few people in. But nowadays, I don't. That's not even a market. I mean, I get more excited watching Facebook feeds. There's a small shop, I believe it's called Heroic Games. We saw it over on Minnehaha. Oh, there it is. 3556 Minnehaha Avenue, Heroic Goods and Games. And every day, every week, they're talking about stuff. I mean, I'm just looking now. Matter of fact, free video game day, Saturday, May 11th, if you're not aware of it. They're talking about product that they got in, new games that they came in. They had a pair of NES systems. So almost daily, if not weekly, they're pimping stuff, and I mean that in a good way, what's going on in their shop. So really, you have to use Facebook and emails to your advantage. The problem, of course, with Facebook, as we talked about, only 10% of the people ever see a single post. So you'd have to decide, do I want to post this to everybody, or do I just want to, hope the chips fall where they may? I would have had flyers ready to go beforehand. Maybe drop some off at the local library.
One thing I like that you said is here's a coupon, but I would say that you could use it after June 1st.
Yeah.
Something
have
in the future,
the same
something
coupon
to try to bring people back a second time.
And the same coupon I could be using at MSP SpringCon, which I would be at because I was at every one when I had a retail store open. And of course, this year it's May 18th and 19th, 2019, at the huge grandstand in the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. All the information's online. Ticket sales are ready to go. Get in that advanced ticket line, folks. You'll fly in. You won't have to wait. mcbacomiccons.com. And as you and I speculated a while back, Cory, they did bring back SpringCon, FallCon, because to use Comic Con is apparently a way to get sued now. Thank you, San Diego.
And I still get no credit.
You don't. And the big thing, like I said, is the flyer we were talking about to steer us back is it would be good not only to give away then, but to give away out at the con as well. Always thinking, got to think ahead.
Now, you've talked a little about a sale. How big a sale would you do? Would you do like a Christmas? Well, you always had it the Thanksgiving week.
Oh yeah.
Would you have a Black Friday size sale, or would it be smaller, or would it be more targeted?
That's an interesting question. Usually I ended up having two what I call enema sales. That's where we flushed the store and just blew out as much as we humanly could. And the thing is no matter how big the sales were, no matter how well the sale went, you'd still look and go, oh my God, it looks like I haven't sold a single thing. I mean, that's how much we would have. Usually the two big sales I had were like the Christmas in July sale, and that morphed into, I think, the bad movie sale. Again, Cory's idea. So he does get credit where credit isn't really needed anymore. And then, of course, Black Friday would be a big sale. I don't know if I would go that big. I might just make it a general. Now, I guess let me preface that. When I do my enema sales, as I love to call them, you're talking like 70% off back issues. Maybe, and I'm not stupid. I would probably take the big ones out and maybe put that in a box for 20% off. Graphic novels would go 30. Toys would go anywhere from 10 to 50 to 70, depending on the line. At that time, I think the old X-Men toys, the original Toy Biz ones, unless they were collector ones, nobody was buying them because there was something new coming out. So, you blow those out. Hey, buy two, get one free. Buy one, get two free. Something silly. I would target every single thing in the store, like posters. 30% off, T-shirts, 20% off, mugs, glasses, tumblers, let's go 30 on that, So depending on what it was, how collectible it was, and again, this is years before eBay, because if eBay was around in the 90s, it would have been a little different, because you wouldn't necessarily blow out that collectible piece. You'd probably put it on the eBays and sell it that way. I think this particular one would probably be just with flyer, come back 20% off. 5% off is chintzy. 10% off you can get just by signing up for this. And 15 is what I gave bottom line subscribers. Come in 2 books, you get 15. So I think I would go 20. And then if I was smart enough, and I usually wasn't, I would make the coupons so that I was specifically tailored to the event. For example, Free Comic Book Day, the flyers would be green. The con, maybe make them a light blue. So that way when they start coming back, I can see where they're coming from. And what would, next year, do I want to have a bigger deal? Do I want to have a more presence at the con? Oddly enough, the con flyers didn't really do a big return because I don't think people would come all the way across town just to visit my shop. And back then, we used to have one of the conventions just down the road at the Maplewood Community Center. And what I would do, and I think I can't remember. I think that was SpringCon at the time because FallCon was the big 2-day event.
Yep.
I would just stand at the door and pass out flyers. And sometime once I did a thing where I had lottery tickets and you had to go back to my shop and compare the number to see if your ticket won.
Wasn't that the Trilogy of Terror?
No, Triangle of Terror was a scratch off.
Oh, okay.
You had in your baggie and given away, you would have a scratch off, and every ticket was at least $1 off, and then 3 of them were grand prizes. Mine was a $500 shopping spree. I think Jay at Twin City Comics, his was something like a $500 credit towards new comics, and Brent had whatever. The third one was just here's a $500 gift package, and I know the guy who won mine wasn't really a big comic collector, and he felt kind of bad, and I said, "Don't feel bad, you won." And he probably redeemed like maybe $100 and then stopped coming into the shop. Like, whatever.
You won.
Come to think of it, I think Jay was the one who gave away a $500 thing. I told him, and I said it doesn't matter if what you're giving away is worth $500. It's just that it has a retail of $500. So you could pick stuff that's been sitting around, and I think Brett might have just given a $500 gift card because we were bigger shops and we could afford that. And Jay was worried, I don't really afford that. So, I know you've got merchandise that just sits around. Make a gift basket. I used to do that for the local church too. I'd make gift baskets from Hot Comics St. Paul, the Ryder family, with a coupon in, and then I'd put like a Star Wars together. I'd put Spider-Man together, and they sold. I don't know if anybody ever came in. Other things that we gave away in the scratch off were 10% off, 20% off, 50% off, free T-shirt, good for toys, whatever. So not only, did you have a chance? I know a lot of people redeemed it that day, and then a few redeemed it over the month. If you go to my Hot Comics page, if you go to my Facebook page and look at the Hot Comics thing, I think I actually have that as one of my things. You'd have to go into my photo albums, and I have everything open, so it's not a big thing. But look for the comics, and I think I have the scratch off thing that Cory was talking about. Actually, I'm just calling it up now, so I'll take a look. I got a lot of other fun things there too. So
now, would you have comic creators as guests?
Oh, yeah, I do have the Triangle of Terror thing out there, so you can see what it looks like. The comic creators, I'm not sure. I had comic creators visit, and again, I'm looking. I remember I had Colleen Doran. She was invited as a guest to the MCBA, and what they would do is always, do a store visit the day before and then go to the con. So the con had a reason to get them in early. I had Pete Krause. Scott Liddell came in one time. I had Alex Hyde White from the Fantastic Four. But one thing I noticed with my signings that I never really captured excitement having people come in. And I don't know if it was just the crowd, because I very much had a comic day crowd. They would come in to bet what the comic day was, Friday back, and now it's Wednesday. They came in, they got their comics, they left. Even if I had a sale going on Friday, one of my Enema sales, they never came back. They bought what they wanted. I mean, I would even offer, like on Black Friday, if you came in that Wednesday to pick up your comics, you could have first crack at the sales. Because I always wanted my subscribers, the guys who kept me in business, to have first crack at everything. I always had what I called the bottom feeders, who only came to my shop when I had my sale. And I can't complain because I'm that way too. I mean, there's some shops I only visit when I know they have a sale going on. There's other shops I visit almost, weekly. But for signings, it never really struck a chord. And again, it could be because who did you have to sell to? There wasn't really an internet. There wasn't social media. You could post it in the newspaper, but nobody cared. You could post it in Comic Buyer's Guide, but that was probably the only newspaper that would have results. If you could afford Wizard, fine, but I don't think Wizard necessarily cared. So it was always self-promotion and mailing. Those were kind of the big things you had to do. And I had a mail list, and I swapped mail lists with MCBA, and I swapped mail lists with Brett down at Comic Archives. But yeah, definitely a tougher crowd now. And again, with social media, I was thinking about this as I'm wont to do, and think about just how I remember as a kid, going to. I remember meeting Mike Grell at St. Paul Comic, but there could be times where even nowadays you're like, oh, I didn't know that creator was going to be at that shop, or be at Barnes and Noble, and you just never see it, never hear it. There's no like central clearinghouse you can go to anymore to promote things. But with social media now, you can actually do it a little easier. Although again, it has its own pitfalls and stuff. So while I would invite a creator, I don't know if it would behoove me to actually bring in, a name creator, unless you did like like with Hot Comics did. They brought in Al Simmons to bring in the Spawnmobile. They had a pretty good response with that.
So how would you treat the free comics that you get from the publishers? Would you, one of the things that I find interesting is with DCB Service, they actually do a calculation, and the number of books you get is based on how much you've bought the previous year. And you had a bunch of subscribers. Would you say, okay, for subscribers, how many do you want? Which ones do you want? Because they do list them all in previews. Or would you just do like most comic shops do, and okay, here they are. You get so many. What sort of tricks and things would you do with the comics that you get for Free Comic Book Day? Because pretty much now they're all promotional books.
Yeah, very true. I think what I would do, a couple different things. First of all, I would make it offered, and I probably have done this through the newsletter. Newsletter. I'm scratching my nose. It didn't come out too well. I did the hotline, and I probably would make an effort to talk to my subscribers and say, hey, which, if any of these, are you interested in? There's a couple of guys who are all Marvel. I would give them that. There were a couple of guys who are all DC. I'd give them that. I might have even gone as far, especially in the case of DC and Marvel, because their comic sets off an event. I'd be like, okay, everybody who gets a Marvel comic gets this, which would have been almost everybody. Everybody who gets a DC comic gets that. I'd probably do that with those two regardless. I might have gone into the base and say, oh, okay, I got 5 people that buy My Little Pony. I'll make sure those 5 get the Free Comic Book Day thing. I also would offer, like Tim did at Granite City, hey guys, you want it all? I will get it for you at cost. I'm putting together a set physically for you, and you're just paying the cost. Or just come on in the day of the event, or come on afterwards and pick out whatever's free. I probably wouldn't have made grab bags. I probably wouldn't have made. I would just lay them out in the front and say, these are the free comics. Pick up what you want. Limit one. I don't want one person grabbing all of them.
Unless they paid for it.
Well, no, because they're free. I mean,
No, I mean they could get one of each if they paid for it.
Oh yeah. Well, and even that, there were maybe 2 guys who qualified that they bought, like the one guy, Steve. It was easier for him to come in and tell me what he didn't want than it was what he wanted, because he just bought comics like crazy. Ironically, I talked with him a while back, and he's doing like I'm doing. He's getting near retirement age, if he hasn't retired already, and he's just, hey, I'm going to keep what I love and get rid of the rest. So those years caught up to him. It'd been easy. I'd say, dude, you get a freebie. But I would work hard to make sure my subscribers got what they want. If it ties into something, that they definitely get it. Other than that, it would be just open doors for everybody. Try to do is, maybe make a big banner, Free Comic Book Day, on the front of the store that I could hang. The first version of Hot Comics had a nice storefront display that I could hang things in. The second one had nice windows, but towards the end, I actually had them covered up. I had like my statues display case, and then because that was the only power outlet, that's where I had the pop machines. And it did two things. It made it kind of tough to look into the store, which, I could never figure out a way to not do it. And it also cut out the natural lighting, which, again, I had it in the beginning, but, you evolve, you move things around. I think that's pretty much it. I'm just trying to think of what I've seen other shops do. And I don't think I would limit. To me, if you want to come in and buy what you want, that would be fine. There was always levels that you bought, and I don't remember. It was like if you bought 100 of the gold members, you'd get this free thing. If you did 100 of the silver, you'd get this. I don't know if they have those incentives anymore. The one thing I did do with Crazy Comics, I must have been the only guy in town that bought the Stargate figure. I think it was like $6, probably one of the most expensive freebies that they were giving away. And I think it was more collectibles. I'd have to check for sure. And it was just a little baggie with, this is an example of what we're doing. And I was the only store in town that had them because I sold toys. But then there was also, I remember selling them for like $20 a pop after Free Comic Book Day because nobody else bought them and they were rare. So most of that I'd pick up. The manga. I don't know if I'd do the manga. I probably would. I mean, that's one of the great mysteries because the manga craze hit after I sold Hot Comics. So I'm not sure how I would have treated manga. Would I have gone all in only to find out, yeah, that was a mistake because, that was back when even Best Buy sold manga.
Yeah, it was a huge thing. It now seems to have kind of cooled off to kind of normal levels, I think. But if you don't know that world, it's hard to play in because it's like, okay, which of these 75 $10 books do people want?
I'm trying to find my previews. I mean, is this it? Oh, this is it. I got my April previews right here.
Oh,
let's take a look here.
Oh, it's got its own section now, and there are the big ones that One Piece, My Hero Academia, Death Note, stuff like that. But when it gets down to the secondary books, I don't know who about. And I think most people are like that. The last question I would have about Free Comic Book Day. You've talked a lot about what you would do in store. One of the things that Christy, when she moved her store to North St. Paul, she was on a street that would every Friday night shut down the street and have bands and, they would have food stands, and now I imagine it's food trucks and stuff. So she stayed open late on that Friday night before Free Comic Book Day and actually had the free comic books available because people would just kind of wander in and, what's this store? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do anything for the people who don't know comics to try to kind of get them, because there's all this talk about, people don't know about comics. I think with the Avengers making $1.2 billion first weekend, people know about comics, but they may not know what to buy.
Well, I don't even know if they know about comics. They just know the movies. I mean, it's real interesting because when I talk to people, they're always like, well, you know a comic guy? I said, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily relate into the comic movie. And again, this is a case where I had to go back to the March previews. And this is something I would have done regardless. But you just kind of look and, let's go through the gold sponsors. Okay, Archie Comics has Riverdale. You know Riverdale? Boom, as seen on TV. When Sears closed out just recently, they had those displays as seen on TV because they sold that stuff. Oh, if I had a store, I would have begged, borrowed, or stole them. I need that sign because that would be such a big thing. And I don't even know if it's a trademark thing. It's just as seen on TV. Riverdale, Stranger Things, Buffy, Firefly. There you got the first three right there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Avengers, to talk what you talk. Deadly Class, I believe it's coming up, upcoming movie. Doctor Who, Catwoman. Well, Catwoman might be known, might not be. And now you're getting into some of the lesser known things. Well, there's Pokemon. There's a Pokemon movie coming out. So these are all big things, and these are just in the gold sponsors. And then when you get down into the silver sponsors, you start seeing like Bob's Burgers, Casper, the Friendly Ghost. I think Lumberjanes. I'm not sure if that's a tie-in.
No, not yet. Nope, it's all on its own.
Okay, Minecraft, that's a video game. So you got all these different things. Spawn, maybe. Star Wars Adventures, definitely. There's a Spider-Man there. Tick. These are things that people heard of. I haven't blabbed about it, but a long time ago, we took our comic display and I put it in the front window. And this is Hot Comics. And I filled it up with non-superhero comics. The only two that were there at the time were X-Men Adventures, because the cartoon was out, and I believe a Batman. There might have been a Superman too, because I was figuring everybody knows that. Spawn might have been there because it was an HBO film and a series. Max was there because it was on MTV. But everything else was Star Wars, Barbie, Star Trek, Micronauts, anything that was non-comic book. And I got Kiss was on there, including some revolutionary comics where they had like Def Leppard. And people came in the store seeing that because they looked and they would see, there's a Kiss comic? And then they come in and, well, there's a couple. There's this expensive one here and here's a reprint. And then there's this, And I think Image was doing Kiss at the time too. So that would be the type of display I would make, possibly for the window. Hey, come on in and check this out. And definitely when you're inside. And then, of course, I would take maybe some of the lesser known comic titles, and forgive me, I just put my previews away, and make that, here, try these for free. Lady Mechanic, Mechanic? Am I saying that right? Mechanica, I don't know. Oh, damn it. I gotta go look it up. Come to me, my previews. You thought Thor had a thing with his hammer. All right. Lady Mechanica from, good, another one. Benitez Productions. Again,
Benitez.
Thank you. I'm hip on this series because of the free comic book day giveaway on that. I would probably put together some as, hey, these are kid friendly, and or maybe, Gemstone's got their Overstreet Guide to Collecting again. I would order crap loads of those and just have those to be given away to people year round.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what's the other one? Is it the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has a freebie too? I would order a bunch of those, but the How to Collect from Overstreet every year, I get it, and for me, it's a lot of, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But if I was 12 and just starting to read comics, it'd be perfect. It also goes into grading, which I think is important for people, for the, I would say 5-6 people who still worry about back issues.
Yeah, there it is. Defend Comics, the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Yeah, I'd have those maybe just right up front and offer them as a freebie. And of course, if you're curious, by the time this drops, I think Free Comic Book Day will be over. But you can always go to freecomicbookday.com because they'll have a wrap up and they'll talk about things that are going on the following day.
And if you go to Comixology, you can get digital versions of those free comics.
I got this from my Crazy Comic File, and this dates back May 22nd, 2005. And you go to the Free Comic Book store, again, freecomicbookday.com, and you go to the comic shop locator service, type in your zip code, and it would tell you these are the participating stores near you. Cory, would you like to know the stores that would be near me?
Sure.
Okay, well, there was Schindler's Plaza 3000 up in Maplewood.
That was beyond Schindler's, or was Schindler's? No, Schindler's still existed.
Yeah, Schindler's existed. They imploded This is one of the what ifs as well, because they imploded after I had closed Crazy Comics. Had they imploded beforehand, I may have stuck around, but that's a what if. Shinder's Rosedale Commons, Shinder's Downtown St. Paul, Comics Plus in Shoreview, and Crazy Comics and Stuff. That's me. And Source Comics and Games, their Falcon Heights location, not in Roseville. And of course, now the question comes, Cory, which one of these shops is still around?
The Source.
Of course. And at Comics Plus was even fun because when I somehow, when you and I went to visit him, he had stock from Hot Comics that I had sold because they still had my stickers on them. And they had Ruby's handwriting and my handwriting. And I found out later that Mark Murdo said, oh, yeah, I sold this guy a lot of your stock because he needed stock to fill his store. So, again, just because you're doing Free Comic Book Day doesn't mean you're going to survive. It's not a pancreas if people think it is. So if you're not supporting your local comic book shop, nobody else will. I know you're going to be shocked, Cory.
I am.
But Doomsday Clock 10 and 11 are going to remain on the schedule.
Yeah, but they're, 11 is 3 months late?
Yeah. It's a finer cutoff will be, it's supposed to be May 29th, and the Doomsday Clock 11 will be August 14th. So.
Well, we've spent most of the episode talking about this. I just want to bring up the sales charts, which are out now for two things, and it's both the ones that are the top selling of the month. Joe, what was the best-selling comic last month? Not a hard one.
Last month?
Yeah.
Doomsday Clock 10.
No.
I don't know. I get my comics monthly. I don't even know what's going on. Oh, it had to be War of the Realms.
Nope. Detective Comics number 1,000.
Oh, it's 300 different comics. Of course.
500,000 copies sold. And the number one trade paperback was the latest Walking Dead, which still sold around 12,000 copies. So Walking Dead, the ratings may have tumbled, but in comics, it is still a powerhouse. It's the only one that sold over 10,000 in the last few months. One of the things I hear is, why do Marvel and DC put out so many omnibuses? If you look, the omnibuses usually sell around 1,000 copies first month. Well, Joe, they cost $100.
Yeah, those are the cheap ones.
Yeah, so 1,000 copies at $100. That's $100,000.
Yeah,
moving into the comics economy. Even if they only sell 1,000 copies, they are usually the highest dollar item for the month. And it's one of the things that I talk about that a lot of people who don't understand comics sales don't get. You know, we get a lot of the people who, well, comics need to be back on newsstands. Well, newsstands have changed in that most magazines that are on newsstands now are only there to try to get people to subscribe. You know, it's okay, buy this issue, and we're going to stuff it full of what are called blow cards, which are those cards where you can subscribe, because they make money off the subscriptions because they make money off the ads.
That's funny you said that, because earlier today I took one of those cards out of Reader's Digest, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to subscribe to Reader's Digest again, just because I need something to read while I'm on the crapper.
But
not that I don't want to be bad-mouthing the good folks at Reader's Digest. If you want to send us review copies, please do. Boy, I didn't know he had a lawyer. He was fast.
But I subscribed to GQ like about 6-7 years ago. I didn't resubscribe. They kept me subscribing for like 4 or 5 extra years. And I asked somebody in the magazine industry, and they go, yeah, the reason they do that is they go to advertisers and say, we sell, the 10,000 copies on newsstands, but we have 200,000 subscribers. This is our demographics for subscribers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So because comic subscriptions don't really do.
Yeah.
And The other thing that I found out recently, one of the reasons DC kind of quit doing newsstand in the 80s, 1985, Wonder Woman on newsstand sold 19,000 copies. How many did they have to ship to get that? 100,000. So they printed 100,000 copies, all but 19,000 were returns. Every company that has gone newsstand has gone belly up. Marvel has a couple specialty magazines that are for kids that are newsstand only. They have, puzzles and games and comics in them. And it used to be that if Marvel would publish something and it wasn't in comic shops would collectively lose their minds. I haven't heard anybody complaining that they're not getting the monthly Spider-Man magazine or the Marvel Universe magazine, and those have been out for years. Why? Because nobody in a comic shop wants to pick up a kid's comic that's got, crossword puzzles and coloring pages and et cetera, et cetera. They're for kids who see it on the cartoons or go to the movies. So I just wanted to point those things out really quick.
Well, I wanted to point out on the Free Comic Book Day comic shop locator.
Yeah.
I just typed in my zip code, and just looking at the stores that they list that are participating or they actually having an event. And of course the sources there. Level Up Games in South St. Paul. You and I have been there once, I believe. Yeah. Uncle Sven's Comic Shop, the Satellite Shop, they're having a special event. Dreamer's Vault, which is 4701 Hiawatha Avenue, which I don't think we've ever been to.
Haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, a new store on our back door. We didn't know about it.
How dare they?
I know. Comic Book College, which we've talked about a lot, and Hot Comics Richfield. And that's just the ones they list. They also have a thing that says these are just the ones who are registered that, hey, we're doing an event, and showed up when I typed in my zip code. So yeah, head over to Free Comic Book Day, put in your store, and hopefully you'll have one nearby and you can have some fun. Because in the next couple of podcasts, we're going to be talking about what are we going to do this year? Our top 5 fave that we read?
I don't know. We'll decide. We'll decide on the drive because it's over an hour to St. Cloud.
There is that.
Yeah. You know who else is going to give you a lot of fun?
Ooh, who? Tell me who.
These guys, our sponsors. That's right, here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, KRAYZ, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Gray's, put in the code CORYS 3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You can just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by. Okay, it's just a place that will record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks. And because I'm off, I'm starting to drop a lot of podcasts. Last week there were 2. Next week there'll be 3. All kinds of podcasts are coming, and here's me talking about them. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts. We've got Scrabbling Across the West with Dave Cafell and his lovely bride Stephanie. They travel across the country playing musical gigs, and at night they sit down to play Scrabble and talk about their day at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. There's Novelcast over at novels.solitairerose.com, where I take the novels that I've written and turn them into audio podcasts. Currently, we are doing a novel called Do the Job, which is a murder mystery set in the world of 1980s professional wrestling. Then over at badadvice.solitairerose.com, me, Cory Strode, and Wolfie B. Bad, along with Dan Moore, give bad advice to people who send in questions. That's bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is growing. Be there! And now that my plugs are out of the way, we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he talks about the Thanos copter showing up in Avengers.
Yes, bring your comic book, bring your San Diego Comic-Con copter, and we can all spin it around at the same time.
No, Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Lots of things selling. I've spent a lot of time not only putting up new stuff, but repricing old stuff, because, you think I'm the only price warrior online. There have been times where I put something up and all of a sudden somebody goes beneath me. Nobody's beneath me. I look up to everybody. Therefore, I re-put my price. Plus, I've changed a lot of things so that I don't deal with shipping charges. It says free shipping, but folks, it's tied into the price of the book. Either way, when you look it up, mine should be the cheapest one there. For example, Cory, do you remember who was in DC Superstars number 13 from 1977?
Oh, I know it's a key issue. I do not remember what one it was.
Sergio Argoni's His Wild and Wacky World. That was a tough one to try to get rid of. I think I might have had the only copy online, but it was Expo 2001 softcover, which was an anthology of comics and essays from the Small Press Expo to benefit the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And it was a who's who of names. Some you may have heard of, some you hadn't. I'm not going to bore you because you couldn't buy it from me now because some guy was smart enough to buy it from me. And I actually sold it at the regular cover price, which was fun. We've talked in past about a Star Trek X-Men crossover. Well, I had a set, the Star Trek Original Series X-Men comic, the Star Trek Next Gen X-Men Second Contact comic, and then the book, X-Men Planet X.
Yeah, that Star Trek X-Men novel. Oof.
I don't remember it. I mean, I remember it fondly, but I read it once, and that's how it shall remain.
Leave it in your memory as a fond memory.
I sold a set called Scarlet Couture 1 through 4 from Titan Comics. I also had the cosplay cover, so you actually got 5 comics for the set. And this was kind of a I don't know. She looked like the girl from that insurance commercial, jumping around, but it was actually kind of a James Bond type, secret agent type thing. Wouldn't surprise me if it became a movie or is becoming a movie. It was fun to read. Way back in '73, Red Circle, aka Archie, had a book called Chilling Adventures in Sorcery with some of the most beautiful, not only drawn but colored covers I'd ever seen. And unfortunately, because of the paperwork on the inside newsprint, it doesn't translate well. So you get all excited for the outside and you go inside and it's like, meh. But I had a few in decent shape and ended up selling them. A couple odd things. I ended up selling a My Little Pony Friendship is Magic number 30 from our good friends Source Comics and Games, their variant cover. Funny thing is, if you happen to be in a store or if you are a store that sells these variant covers, there's a big market for this stuff on the eBays. I know they were selling these for like $5-10, and I ended up selling it to $20 to somebody way out of town who had no other way of getting it. So if you are a store and you do have a variant, get 5 of them on the eBays because somebody will want them. Somebody will want to buy it. Cory probably remembers this one. Arg.
Yep, that's one of Marvel's in the early 70s. They flooded the market. And I believe ARG was the one that was new stuff. Because there was ARG and there was Smooth. And one of them was new stuff, and the other one was reprints of 50s parody comics.
I'm not. Yeah, this one might have been the 50s comics because I think the other one had topical references on it.
Okay,
but again, might have been just
ARG was reprints of 50s parody comics.
Yeah, and of course, if we're wrong, just send us an email. I did get some more DC Showcase Presents online, and I sold Batman Volume 2 right away, which again had Bronze Age stuff. And again, we talk about.
Actually, Volume 2 is Silver Age.
Is it? Oh, it is Silver Age. Okay.
Yep. Bronze Age starts with, I think, either 4 or 5,
which are really expensive.
Yeah.
So the 2 wasn't that expensive. Again, mine are what I have is. At the time, I put them on the cheapest ones there. So if you're at all interested, and I got a couple Ask the Strodes.
Oh, really?
I've been peppering you with questions, but I wanted you to get your thinking hat on and fire up some thinking grenades. And we've talked about this before, so maybe does Cory remember the 99? And if I say
Idol,
if I say there was a crossover with JLA, it might ring a bell.
Oh,
Yeah,
the 99. Remember it. I vaguely remember.
Yeah, because it came out quick. It was a overseas title. Came out, I believe, published in Kuwait, and it's created by Nafel El Mutawa, published by Teshkil Comics, a team of superheroes with special abilities based on the 99 attributes of Allah in Islam. And there was an original 7 series, and again, there was a crossover miniseries with the JLA, which a lot of people may remember from 2010. Now, I have a brother-in-law who goes over there quite a bit, and for a while, he would bring me back the 99 comics, not only the English version, but the Arabic version. And then in exchange, he would bring over copies of JLA the 99 to whoever he was trading these with. And I know I got, I think, 5 issues over to him. I don't know if the other issue 6 ever got there. There were, however, 35 issues of the series before the gentleman who was publishing it shut it down because, of course, somebody somewhere had to issue a religious decree and didn't like it, which surprised him because he was like he had received clearance from his Sharia scholars. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And never would have done it had the project had he not. So just kind of an ending. It's not being published now, but I do have some of those issues, if you're curious, on the eBays. And again, there are none on there other than the original 5 that were published here, and of course the JLA one. So here's your chance. I love international comics. One of these days, as I'm preparing podcasts, unlike Cory, who has time to podcast, when I'm down, I'm in death gripping pain, so not like I do get to podcast a lot, but I will talk about some of the
you should have podcasted when you were all loopy on medication.
You didn't do it for me. Why would I do it for you? Anyways, and the last question has a prize attached for Cory if he so chooses. Are you ready, Cory? And this is for a prize.
Okay.
Because, I'm just not giving away stuff. No, this is for a real prize. I'm just not giving away stuff to people who happen to buy things on eBay under my nom de clore crazy KRAYZ, which you graciously give a link not only on your webpage, which do people use web pages anymore? But definitely on the ads and stuff. Cory, tell me about the haunt of horror.
The Haunt of Horror. That is Marvel's. Hold on a sec.
He's getting warmer, folks.
That is a Marvel magazine that they recycled. There were 2 issues that were sort of a digest magazine, prose magazine, and Marvel way overprinted them. This was at a time when digest magazines like Analog and Fantasy and Science Fiction were selling around 50, 60,000 copies. Marvel printed 300,000 of them.
They must have thought it was a comic book.
Yeah, they did. They treated it like a comic. There were only 2 issues. Then the Marvel black and white magazines, they decided to reuse the name as a magazine for kind of a horror anthology. Here's a weird thing that I discovered in my collecting all of the Marvel black and white mags, except for the romance one. The stories that were scheduled for Haunt of Horror #3, the digest, were scattered in throughout the Marvel black and white magazines because they'd already paid for them. So they would just drop them into one of the magazines. So all of a sudden, here's a prose story that goes for 9 or 10 pages. I actually hunted down Haunt of Horror 1 and 2 almost 10 years ago. And for an anthology magazine, I liked the stories. I thought they were well done. There was, in each one, they actually had a story by Gary Conway, who was Gerard Conway, because, prose is far more serious than comics.
Very serious. Very serious. I think of that every time I scribble on a bathroom wall.
Yeah. So there you go. Haunt of Horror from Marvel.
Now, the question I have is, do you have, and you probably do, a Haunt of Horror #2 digest size?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
that's
okay.
One that's a little more rare.
Because I had one. I have one, and I was actually going to give it to you because I figured of all the people I know, you would probably appreciate it.
Do you want to know how you got that, Joe?
I don't, because it just appeared in my box of stuff.
I gave it to you because when I ordered it, the guy had 2 of them. He said, I can't sell the other one, so he gave me a second one, and I gave it to you.
Well, I'm going to sell it on eBays.
There you go.
If one of our listeners is interested, just drop Cory a quick line, and I'll figure a way to get it to you. But I am going to give Cory a prize, and the prize will be the hardcovers that you left in my stack of stuff from way back when on Black Friday.
Oh, good.
Because they're just sitting here, and if not only am I selling things that you give me, I'll end up selling these on eBays if you don't get them.
I know.
So that's funny. I mean, I actually thought Cory's the only one I know that would be interested in this. Well, maybe I might be wrong.
Well, now that Joe's done with what's going on the eBays, now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I go on about the New Japan Pro Wrestling stuff I've been watching lately for an hour and a half.
No, he could.
No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Did you read the article in Reason.com under the category Culture War, where they're talking, it's called Cancel Culture Comes for Counterculture Comics, where they're talking about how it's today's creators and not the cops who want to banish R. Crumb's work.
Yeah, that's been going on for a long time, though. Crumb has always been controversial.
And now
when I talk about underground comics, I understand how Crumb is important. I have Fantagraphics complete run of the complete Crumb, but his stuff at times is really goddamn disturbing.
Yeah, and I gotta admit it too, because I lucked out and I did go through a underground comic phase, and I to this day cannot think of a single Crumb work that I enjoyed, and I don't have any, because when I looked at it, his art was so. Again, this is from a 12-year-old's perspective. And, again, what's a 12-year-old buying underground comics for? Because I could. I found Playboys too, but that ain't the issue. And I've said it before. I've learned more about sex and drugs from Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers than I did anything in school or pamphlets my parents gave me. But I just didn't get Crumb. I understand more now, and it's kind of one of those things where the people who are complaining about him are, aren't necessarily giving him the kudos that, hey, you are probably here because of what he did. But then again, I'm not black. I'm not female. I'm not the ones that Crumb was parodying. We've talked over and over about things that, at what point do you stop enjoying the creator's work because of something that he or she did. Cory, can you watch?
Chris Benoit.
Thank you. I couldn't even think of his name. I got him pictured. Can you enjoy his matches, even though you know what he ultimately did? He killed his son, he killed his wife, and then committed suicide.
I thought that I could, but I've got the Chris Benoit box set that came out before he passed. I actually still have the Raw where he had died and they did not know what happened, so it's his best matches.
Which I've never seen, and I would like to watch it.
Maybe I dig it up.
It's just one of those things when you run across it. I mean, look how long it took me to find that Haunt of Horrors.
But I have not watched any since his passing. He was a fantastic wrestler. There were very few people as good at wrestling as him, but I still can't watch his matches. I just can't.
And I find similar arguments going on because with Disney announcing they're releasing all these movies, they're obviously not releasing Song of the South, and they're also editing some of Fantasia, which...
Yeah, they did that a long time ago.
But I guess I didn't realize that they had also, there was a caricature centaur of a black centaur that they edited out, which is fine. But then there were also some fairly, I don't know, in my opinion, well-drawn centaurs, beautiful centaurs, not caricature at all. And they edited them out as well. And I guess David Gerrold had a thing going on his Facebook page where he was like, that I'm less comfortable with because, again, yeah, product of the times, whatever. But these particular centaurs were not caricatures. At least he didn't think they were. They were very beautiful compared to the other ones that were out. And yet they're being cut because of whatever reason. And the question is, when do you just, it's not censorship because it's not government. These are private properties. They can be owned. But at what point do you censure and not censorship? In this article I talked to before, and again, this isn't really a freaking. This is just kind of one of those things you really got to decide for yourself. I'm not gonna. I'm not a Crumb fan. Like I said, I saw his stuff. I didn't get it. It didn't titillate me. It didn't entertain me. I didn't recognize it as the satire it was. I thought it was interesting that Zap number 4 is the only comic book to ever be labeled by courts as obscene. So I may have to get a copy of that just for myself. I mean, geez. I mean, that's still on the books. And so the question is like, when did they decide, well, do we want to take it in the historical fact? Do we just want to think Crumb was crazy and maybe a little sick? Or is this an individual decision to make? Not looking for answers, just throwing it out there. But if you are interested, the article, reason.com is the place under their culture war. I'm going to alliterate again. Cancel culture comes for counterculture comics. Man, I'm proud of that one. It's published, or the article author, Brian Doherty, it's from the May 2019 issue. So imagine if it's an actual issue, you could probably pick it up and read it for yourself and decide. So just some concerns under freaking. Other than that, not too bad. Wife's got a cold, so I'm crossing my fingers that I don't catch a cold because, it's con season, and this is usually when somebody will catch one. And if I do catch it, I hope it's now so that I recover by the time the con comes around.
So what you're telling me is I need to bring a lot of hand sanitizer on Saturday.
No kisses for you. Sorry. I still may give you a few hugs just because I know you don't like them. But no hugs. Kisses.
Whatever.
No tongue. What are you freaking on, Cory?
Friend of the show, because he was one of the first big name interviews I did, and a personal online friend of mine, Greg Theakston, passed away last week. He had liver and heart problems for quite a while, but he recently fell, and when he went into the hospital because of the fall, he basically was in a coma, and because of his advanced liver and heart problems, he did not awaken from that. Greg is kind of a controversial figure among some comic fans. I always found him to be charming, entertaining. He always came through. There were
Could
a
you
lot of
tell
people.
me what the controversy, unless it's too broad a topic, because I'm not aware of it.
First off, his Pure Imagination reprints. He did not, he would put out volumes for artists, but not pay the artist because the stuff he would print would be public domain. The second thing was that there are people who allege that he would take commissions and not deliver them. Myself, I never had a problem. Everything I sent him money for, I got not just what I'd paid for, but more, because it was, oh, you ordered this CD-ROM that has a bunch of art on it. I'm going to throw in the book as well. Or I'd order a book and he'd throw in an extra CD of scanned artwork. Things such as that. Other comic fans I know who liked him and knew him, he would just do that. But there are some people who say that he would take commissions and not pay for them. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that his printing margins were so low that basically he was not making money on the stuff for Pure Imagination. And it was public domain anyway. So, but Greg, I will post the interview that I did with him in the notes for this show. He was a charming fellow, had tons of stories. I did a long interview with him. It was so long that he actually said in the interview, how long does this thing go? And we were going to do a second one to basically go through the second half of his career, but he wasn't ever either available or well enough to do the interview. The second thing I am freaking on, Michael Davis, who was one of the founders of Milestone Comics, did Motown Comics, has been involved in comics for years, also does mentoring of comic creators from the inner city. Basically, he has set up places where kids with talent in art but don't have access to art school or good schools could get information and basically learn from artists. Someone hacked his Facebook and put up that he had committed suicide on his birthday. And it wasn't for a day or so that it was corrected. And he has since kind of roared back because he'd kind of stepped away from social media and the internet a couple of years ago. But now he's back and he's naming names. But the fact that they put that information out there, and many of his friends did not know it was fake for at least a day. So he had to spend a lot of time calling people to say, no, I'm still alive. He had to call family members and say that he's still alive. So I can't even imagine what that would have been like to wake up to, you go out on the internet and it says that you've killed yourself. And just kind of shows that, you got to lock down your social media, lock down your stuff. Doug Paskevich had an ex-girlfriend who hacked into his Facebook. And he's talked about that on his website. So you've really got to be careful with your online stuff. And the only good thing about that story is that Michael Davis actually got to see how much people care about him. I actually had some minor dealings with him when Milestone started, because he was on Genie talking about it, and he would send out photocopies of issues coming out to kind of get people hyped. And he and I traded emails, and then when he got on Facebook, we traded emails. There were times when I would send artists to him because he was looking for people for comics projects that weren't through comic publishers, industrial stuff, advertising stuff with Motown. So I would send artists his way. And I'm not going to say we were friends, but we did, email back and forth from time to time. Really a disturbing way to wake up Monday morning, but I'm very glad that he's still with us. And because of this, he's kind of decided that he's not going to hide away anymore. He's going to be out there. He's going to be naming names. He's doing Facebook Live almost every day. And because it's getting enough, he's actually talking about doing a Facebook Live talk show with comic creators. So, Joe, what are you geeking on?
Did I mention I saw the Avengers movie?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I can say. I'm just looking. I don't know. I've gone through like a wave of Kickstarters recently, and I don't know which ones I've talked about. I'm just going to mention them. For example, Sora Sung did one called Carnal Confessions, which was an illustrated novel, and says, expect to question your morals, loyalties, and loves as you ride along with villainous carnal sin. Ooh, and her art is amazing. One of these days, I will ask her for a commission, but I got to get the money up first. I know I talked about A Girl with No Name, which was created by Legion M. An orphan girl raised by her bounty hunter uncle sets out for revenge after he's murdered by a band of outlaws. I jumped on Brian Paluto's newest Lady Death Scorched Earth #1, which was fully funded. I also jumped on White Ash Volume 1, which is 200-page of fantasy, horror, and forbidden romance. Ooh, and they actually have a pre-order store going, so which if you didn't jump on the original backers, you can jump on and I think jump on board if you want. And the one I don't know if Cory and I talked about, Jim Starlin is doing a Dreadstar Omnibus. And I jumped on board. He had like a 48-hour deal where you could get all 3 volumes for, I forget what it was, like $175. And I'd already supported for the first one. And I thought, you know what, I might as well get all 3. And it includes digital things. And, you know, I know a lot of times people are big on, they give all sorts of extra fun stuff, different variants. And I'm not so much big on those. I want the main omnibus. I want the main books. You know, any bling that comes along is fun as well. Or I will probably end up donating to the MCBA Spring Con 2019 charity art booth, which, what do we call it? Elephant's Charity Store? I think it ended up being called Charity Store. And like they talked about, my family and I, one of Nick Post's last things was to tap into my inner retailer and have me open up this charity booth store to not only sell like White Elephant and other donated things, but also to anything that was like donated that didn't sell at the charity art auction on Sunday. They have a place to go. The art auction itself is just loads of fun. A lot of creators donate some of their best stuff. They get graphic novels, rare toys, things like that, including some absolutely stunning artwork. All goes to the charities, which are both the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and Heroes Initiative. And of course, we're doing it again this year. It's 6th year, 7th year. I don't know how long we've been doing this. Still taking donations. You have to figure out a way to mail it to me if you have anything. Doesn't matter if it's a book, a piece of artwork, or say somebody gave you a copy of Haunted Tales years ago and you decided rather than sell it, you'll just bring it to the donate it. That type of thing. So we'll be there. It'll be a lot of fun. And of course, I'll gab more about that after the event, but you still have a chance to join in if you want. We got some swell donations. I love that word, swell donations. Our good friend Alan Payne from Dynamite Comics sent me a bunch of variant covers. Al Payne, of course, like Cory, one of the original co-founders of the MCBAs. And we should hit him up for a podcast. I bet you he's got some stories to tell. Like the one about how he was the one that told Stan Lee, hey, make the Hulk's pants green. Or red, purple, go for purple. I got donations from Solar Collectibles. He always sells online under CC Solar Collectibles. Most of the time he's on the Toy Peddler, which I've been on in the past. I'm not currently selling anything, but I do buy things there. Also in North St. Paul, there's a store that he puts a lot of his stuff, a lot of die-cast, things like that. Twice a year, he loads up his garage and just blows out stuff because he's getting stuff almost constantly. But he donated my back seat of my truck's full. Matter of fact, when we're done talking, I got to go dig through it and see what we got. Dreamhaven Books in Tiki Town donated some stuff. Granite City donated some things. I'm donating stuff. My old partner, Pat Gruber's donating stuff. Cory's donated stuff. So if you want, and I was thinking about this, and one of the cool things about it is, I know, Cory knows, we all know, very rarely are you going to get back what you paid for if you decide to get rid of your collection. If you go to half price, they're going to give you half cents on the half cent. It doesn't matter if you're bringing a boatload of bestsellers. Nope, that's not how it works. You go to a comic store, what was the price we talked about? $8 a long box, if that, and falling fast. Back issues just ain't there. But you paid more for that. By donating it to a charity like what we're doing, you get to deduct pretty much what you paid for it. And of course, the tax rules vary depending on what you are, So whether you're a creator that's got a bunch of comp copies sitting around that are, holding up your wall, whether you're a retailer who's got oodles of dead stuff you don't know what to do with, if you're a reader, just got tons of things, this is the place to do it. And it benefits some worthy causes that benefit the comic industry. So it's a good time to do it. Or you could do like I do and start working out. That's right. I am finally well enough where I can start going to Planet Fitness. My wife's got a membership there, and I think I'm going to pick up one. And I've been able to get out there and not only, I'm not hitting I'm not there, power running like some of the people are, lifting, but I am using the leg press to try to help with my hip recovery and try to get my other hip from dying on me before Christmas. And I did notice one thing that was kind of a positive. For the longest time, I had like this little ball of pain in my glute. And that's where they cut into through the glute because of the way my arthritis was. And I was talking with a PT therapist and I said, I started using the power lift, and the one guy there showed me how to use it. I do like 3 sets of reps, high, low, and then I do it with a single leg. And if you want to ever realize how weak you are, try to do a leg press with one leg. Your body's designed to work both, but oh my God, it was painful. It was harsh. But then I noticed this little ball of pain in my butt. It's kind of gone away. And that actually is good. And the PT therapist was very happy about that. And I'm excited about that too, because now I can get there and slow. I'm not doing a lot. If I can't do it, I'll do it on 10 pounds. There were a couple I didn't even have any weight on it. I was just doing it to move it. But this is kind of a way to not only build up, because I've lost so much being down. I can walk now pain-free. I can actually walk. And if you, I'm sure you guys listened to me as I was talking for those last, it was literally 7 months of my life gone because of my hip. And I feel so much better now. Yeah, I know you're worried about me up onto SpringCon, but I'll have chairs, I'll have fatigue mats, I'll have my what are they, sprung boots where they have big springs in the heel to help recover for that. So that concrete floor of the grandstand isn't going to do me in. I did mention I did read something, and I read the new Teen Titans Volume 9. And why did I read Volume 9? Because I have Volume 10, which just came out, and I didn't know what I was reading. Then I remembered I never read Volume 9. Volume 9, of course, covers from when they changed, if I say this right, they started a series of books, and they did it in Teen Titans and, was it Legion of Superheroes?
Yes.
Where the original newsprint.
And the Outsiders.
And the Outsiders. The original newsprint kept going as Tales of the Teen Titans or Tales of the Legion of Superheroes, and then it stopped. But at the same time, this Baxter stock, which was the first time they had committed to using a higher form of paper, that would have the new series as well. So you're getting 2 series with new, and then a year later, when the Tales newsprint would stop, they would reprint the Baxter series, and that didn't go over too well. Because really, if you were big on the Teen Titans, you would just jump right on, especially since the first 6 of the Baxter series, and by Baxter I mean the paper, obviously, was I think the last artwork that George Perez did for Teen Titans.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were on it, and of course it was the big finale with I'm saying his name wrong. Trigon?
Trigon.
Trigon, which itself would make a laughter. And as usual, as I read through it again, I have tons of questions. They do refer to like, where's the JLA? Why couldn't they do it? And you keep wondering about all the other mystical heroes that were around in the DC universe. I mean, why would the Spectre not get involved? But then again, you also realize, it was 6 months for us, but it was probably a course of hours that this particular battle happened. So you're slipping there, Spectre. And of course, that was still Earth 2 was around. This is all pre-crisis stuff. So maybe Spectre was on Earth 2. I don't know. Who cares? We have fun stories. And again, next week I'll probably be blabbing about number 10. I did get a new television. Cory spurned me on. You're bad influence, Strode. Even though you are a goody two-shoes. And we didn't go. I don't know what the difference is 4D versus non-4D, but we did make sure we had that. I actually called Cory, because A, I knew he was home, and B, I wanted to make sure I got the type of TV he'd been raving about even before his eye surgery. And I think it was the resolution 1080.
Yes.
And even just looking at it, we're like, oh, this is amazing. And then we flipped on some of them nature shows and but I don't know if just because it's that high resolution, if it's considered 4D or if 4D is a very specific thing or
4K.
not. 4K, 4D. Well, maybe it is 4K. I don't know. I'm thinking 4D was like a thing in TV that kind of flopped, wasn't it?
3D.
No, there was a 4D. It was like 4D. You have to have special vision and special. Yeah, because it was a big thing, I thought, and then it just kind of disappeared. But anyways, 4K. Is that the same, or is it something? Is that a specific brand?
No, it's a specific resolution. Now, do you have Roku?
I don't have a Roku in it, but I do have access to almost anything that Roku had.
Okay, because you'll want to go to just to see the 4K, there is a Roku 4K channel that basically will go, oh, here's all the stuff that's available in 4K. And you can see the difference, and it's just like looking out a window. So for me, it's like really clear blurriness.
So I wonder do you need a special Roku for that, or can I just use the one I got?
Yeah, just a regular one.
Cool. Because we didn't even set up the Roku or whatever was on, and I don't even know if it's a full Roku because they did offer like you can put Netflix direct. It's a smart TV. We're just like, I don't want to look up those damn passwords again. Screw it. We'll just hook up the Roku and do it. But I'll play with that when we're done. And from the I don't know what to do department, I actually found a $100 bill. It was amazing. I was driving up and I looked down and I see that can't be real. And I stopped, got out, picked it up. It's like, hey, it's a real it's a $100 bill. It was in a bank parking lot though. And I look around and there's like nobody there. And I'm thinking, well, this obviously came out of the ATM. I said, well, no, ATMs distribute 20s. They don't do hundreds. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what to do with it. So I drove away with it, and it's still sitting. I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, I did call the bank, and I say, hey, I went through your ATM, and I found a rather large sum of money. And if anybody they're like, well, how much? I said, well, I don't want to tell you how much. But if anybody reports that they're short, let me know. I've yet to get a call back. So I tried to do the moral thing. Usually, and the funny thing was I was reading an article that just happened where some guy left a box of $32,000 on his bumper and drove away. He fell off the freeway and poof. First of all, why do you have $32,000 in cash? It wasn't a drug deal gone bad, but the cops did get involved, and they're trying to get people. If you found it, please return it. Poor guy's only got like 2,300 of it back. But I used to be real hardcore. I got to turn this in. It's not mine. Blah blah blah. But the last time I turned in a large wad of money, it was when I was first working at the airport. I found this roll, and I swear it had to be about $200. And here's me thinking, oh, some poor kid or guys, I'm going to go travel. I just lost my money. I don't know what to do. So I turned it into Northwest. Most of the time back then, they fired people for we find money on the floor and it sits in a jar and some guy took it home, gave it to his kid. Fired him over $5 in pocket change. You wonder why TSA is so effed up. It's because of crap like that. Nowadays, you see a penny on the ground, nobody wants to touch it. Integrity test, they call it. Tries my supervisor nuts. So that's not an integrity test. Pick it up. I said, you fired people for less. We're not, you want it, you pick it up. We're not dealing with it. So, anyways, I found this wad of money. I turned it in. 20 minutes later, I look over and the person I turned it into put it in their pocket. And I was like, what the hell? I could have done that myself. I mean, I put it in my pocket, but, turned it into my guys. So seriously, if I find wads of cash, unless I know, like, it's some poor schmuck who lost it off his truck, I'm just prone to keep it. I think it's like a drug deal gone bad. And it's like, hey, so, if I did find like a bag of money, I'd probably go stick it in my safe deposit box and listen, maybe, let the police know, hey, I found this, it's safe. I just want to know what to do with it. So, and on other news, Cory just texted me he lost a $100 bill. Sucks to you, Cory. Already done with freaking. What are you geeking on?
First thing I'm geeking on, I am off until Memorial Day.
Nice.
I thought that I would have to be going back because, I put in my disability claim. And when I went to the doctor the day after my second surgery, they were like, oh, you can't go back to work for, at least a week and probably more because your eyes need to finish healing before we can fit you with glasses. So I go onto the website for my disability and I actually put in a note, hey, the doctor said that I can't go back to work, blah, blah, blah. They email me back and they go, we already approved your claim until, May 24th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. So it's not like I could go back on that Saturday. Really? That was my reaction. What? And then, my work called and they said that they'd gotten my disability information and not to worry about things. And I even went online and filled out my time card all the way to the end of May so that I don't have to worry about getting my time card in on time. So I've just kind of been, reading. I sleep a lot more because my eyes are really tired. And I've just kind of, and I asked the eye doctor about that. And they said, yeah, you're going to be sleeping more because you're putting a lot of strain on your eyes as they're healing. And my friends have said that I need to, shut up and just heal.
Yes. Well, no, I would say shut up because you do want to get your podcasting done, but quit bitching about it.
I have been reading a lot of stuff. I read, I am now 30 issues into Charles Soule's run on Daredevil, which was the run of Daredevil before the current one by Chip Zdarsky. And, oh man, is this good stuff. This is such good stuff. Daredevil's secret identity is secret again. He is now working with the district attorney's office and having to deal with having a secret identity, which means he can't just take off and be Daredevil without consequences. It would be like if you were at TSA and, oh, something horrible's happened. I have to take off and go be a superhero. When you come back, your boss is not going to be happy. And the way they got his secret identity back in the bottle actually worked in context. So I like that as well. I have been watching a lot of TV. I'm almost completely caught up on New Japan Pro Wrestling. Does Joe know?
Dun, dun, dun.
What is the NWA?
NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, isn't it?
Yes. Did you know they are still around?
In some shell form or other.
They are now owned by Billy Corrigan. And they had a pay-per-view over the weekend. They had the Crockett Cup.
Nice.
And it was an 8-tag team tournament. They also had the women's championship, a national championship match, and a world championship match. I watched this pay-per-view, and even though there wasn't a huge crowd, hell of a good show. Ring of Honor was heavily involved in it. You can tell because it used a lot of Ring of Honor stuff. But very well done pay-per-view. And I'm excited about the fact that they are slowly moving ahead. Also, the All Elite Wrestling has said that they will have an announcement soon that they will have a weekly TV series on a major cable channel in October. And there are more and more people from WWE who are asking for their release because they're unhappy with how they're being treated or used. And they're showing up over at All Elite Wrestling. So I'm not going to say we're going to get another Monday Night War, but it is nice that we're going to have a second wrestling promotion that will, be of a decent size, and they could do really entertaining stuff. I completely went through the series You're the Worst, which is a comedy from FX. I think I talked about a little last week. And I also found that the TV series Thriller with host Boris Karloff is available on the Roku channel. So I have a lot of TV I can watch. I got a lot of books I can read. I got a lot of comics I can read. Expect some Solitaire Rose Radio where I go through some of the stuff I'm reading. And also, since I've been trying to get you to do another series in review, I may just give up on getting you to do it and do it myself.
Well, you could have called me while I was sitting on my ass not doing anything.
I did.
You did not.
Yes, I did. I messaged you a few times.
Oh, hey, yeah, the message.
Do you want to do Master of Kung Fu? Oh, no, the book's too big.
Damn straight. See, what you're forgetting is you can walk. I had this plan to go to the bathroom when I had my hip replaced. Now I don't. I just, wear my Avenger diaper and just,
There you go.
Matter of fact, I'm going right now.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
And I don't believe it.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
All right. Last week, one of our listeners sent us a note. He's in a band called My Cousin Dallas, and we listened to the first song off their new EP that they're still working on. They're going to be at an event at the Midway Saloon called, it will be on Friday, May 17th. The band Drawn, FM Down, and My Cousin Dallas. You can check them out on Facebook, My Cousin Dallas, www.mycousindallasband.com. And they gave us a second track. Don't have much information on it, but let's give a listen to it and let them know you heard it here first. Cory, hit my music.
And there we go.
Cool. Now I just got to find out where it is. So yeah, I went over to Butch's. I
knocked on the door.
There's nobody there. Just
got ignored.
Actually, no, the dogs were there, but I figured Mary, Butch, and their kid will be at school, so I left a note on the door. I taped it to the door, like kind of like Martin Luther, bam, bam. These are my problems. I told him.
Would have been neat if you would have wrote that too. Here's my problem with you, Butch.
My biggest problem. No, I just told him. Damn, that's so weird. Oh well, if I can't find their EP, I'll just play the same song from last week. Oh well, I'll find it. And then next week, I got a friend who did a Celtic band.
Ooh.
Oh, here it is. My Cousin Dallas. Oh shit, I said it wrong. Okay, let me. Fuck it. Okay, I'll do it again. Take two.
Okay.
I found the website I said wrong, so I don't want to send them. And I don't know if you can edit out the website. One of our listeners is in a band, My Cousin Dallas, and they talked about him last week. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, you will get a chance on Friday, May 17th at the Midway Saloon in St. Paul, Minnesota. They're there with two other bands, Drawn, FM Down. Let them know you heard about it here on this here podcast, you can go to mycousindallas.bandcamp.com and not only check out their entire, how do you say, digital discography? Discography for a very, very cheap price. Anyways, they gave us permission to run another song of theirs. And now, without further ado, My Cousin Dallas. Cory, hit my music.